Welcome back to the Without the Bank podcast, or welcome if it's your first time. Thank you for being here. We are going to talk about all things infinite banking, business, how to handle wealth, all that good jazz. Today, I want to talk about, it's not working. It doesn't work fast enough. I have had some objections in the last week that I have seen on social media posts. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, share the podcast, rate the podcast, whatever. If you leave me 5 stars, I love it. If you did not know, I also have another podcast, Farming Without the Bank. And there are almost 200 episodes over there, I think. So you can go over there and get a lot of information too. Okay, let's get into it. So this is what somebody posted on one of my social media ads, is that I looked into this and this did not work because they wanted to put term insurance on the policy and it was not going to, as much money as I wanted to put in, the life insurance company would not allow. So let's talk about those few things. I responded to this gentleman and said, you know what, there are guidelines, right? You can't put in just as much money as you want to put in because it's called human life value. The insurance company says you are worth X amount of dollars. And it sounded like in his comment, it sounded like he needed about $1 million a year to operate his business off of, and he wanted to put in $1 million a year. So if you make $1 million a year and you want to pay a premium of $1 million a year, the life insurance company is going to say, how are you going to do that? If you make $1 million minus expenses, because they go based on your gross income. So if you make $1 million minus expenses, how are you going to pay for that? I mean, there has to be a ratio. The goal is to pay premium, and the life insurance companies want to make sure that you can continually pay the premium. Now, let's just say that he needs $1 million of operating a year, and he makes $1 million a year. Did he make $1 million year one? Probably not. It may have taken him 5 years to get there. It may have been 10 years to get there. It may have been 20 years to get there. I don't know. But we often want all of the money right away. We read Nelson's book or you read my book and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I want to get away from the bank overnight. Well, we didn't get into this situation we're in overnight. So what makes us think we can get out of it overnight? I just came out of a meeting where this guy wanted to do a really high premium. And I said, well, that's great, but I don't want you borrowing money from the bank to pay the premium. Because when we do that, it can get us into a lot of trouble. And there are a lot of agents out there right now. Well, I call them a lot. I mean, I've heard about 3 or 4 of them, which is a lot and not awesome. So if we have somebody that is doing premium finance, for example, I don't want you borrowing money from the bank and then paying your premium with it. Because if you do that, guess what? You have to borrow from the policy to operate. So now you owe the policy money and you owe the bank money. You basically doubled your debt. If we don't have the money coming in to cover that, that can get us in trouble very, very quickly, and all of a sudden we go backwards. Not the point of infinite banking. The point is to make you the banker. Even Nelson talks about it in his book that it's going to take some time to get there. Be patient. It's not happening overnight. The other thing that he talked about was the fact that he said, well, you have to be insurable. Well, of course you have to be insurable. It's life insurance. But if you are not insurable, that doesn't mean that you can't do this. Now, I had somebody else purchase the book and then she wants to return the book because it's based on life insurance and supposedly she's uninsurable. I do not have a no return. I have a no return policy. Like if you didn't do your research before you hit purchase, that's not my problem. But if you are uninsurable, basically what this person did is said, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to learn anything because I can't do this on myself. But you're married, in her case, you're married, you most likely have children, you could have business partners. There are other people that we can insure. But to just say, oh, I'm uninsurable, this isn't going to work. Does that mean that, or entitle you to stop learning because it doesn't apply to you? What? Are we really that selfish that we don't want to learn so that we can spread that information to other people and possibly help other people? I am always learning about stuff that has zero relevance to me, because guess what? Somebody that might help somebody else that I know, or I'm just genuinely interested in learning it. So if we are in a situation because we don't have any money and we don't have anything, is it because we just quit learning? Right? Nelson calls that the arrival syndrome. We just quit learning. Okay, where is that getting you in life? Kudos to you. You stopped learning. You got to be one of those old stuffy people. Do you want to be stuffy? I don't want to be stuffy. So it's so, and then this gentleman also suggested that the term insurance on the policy was hurting the policy. Now, companies have different kinds of term insurance, but if an agent is putting term insurance on the policy, it doesn't always belong there. Depends on what you need as a client. Depends on the situation. Now, the term insurance is there in most cases so that you can get more money into the policy without it becoming taxable. Because there is a MEC, a modified endowment contract, that we have to stay under. And as long as we can stay under those MEC guidelines, that it'll all grow income tax free. So I said to him, well, it's unfortunate that you did not have an agent that knew or how to explain this to you. And he said, I read the book. I learned everything I needed from the book. I took it to the agent. The agent didn't know. They called their superior, and this is what the superior showed me. This person didn't know. So what makes you think the superior knew if the agent that you knew didn't know, and you're trying to tell somebody else how to do it based off of a book? You guys can't take my book to somebody and say, oh, this is what we need. You can't take Nelson's book to somebody and say, oh, this is what we need. And many people and many agents out there will say, oh, yes, I read that. I know exactly what you need. How do you know what they need when there are many different ways to structure it? You don't have to structure it exactly like the book. There are many companies out there that can't even do what Nelson is talking about. So they do a 10-pay policy, or they do a 20-pay policy, which means you only pay for 10 years or 20 years, or, oh, we're going to pay it up at 65 years old. So now if we pay it up at 65, we're done. Well, is that what we want? Do we want term on there? Maybe we don't want term on there. And so why do we have a reader of a book that doesn't know anything about life insurance telling a life insurance agent what to do? You have to have the right person. Now, I try to explain this to the point where everybody can understand it. And I would say that I would qualify myself as successful. I just came out of a meeting where the wife said, I did not understand this. Thank you very much for explaining it, because now I understand it. Now it makes sense to me. So you have to get to the client's level. If they just presented him with some numbers and didn't explain how it's structured, didn't explain the concept of why we want to be the banker, the access to money, what is the return on access to money? Infinite, right? That's why Nelson called it the infinite banking concept, because we still have access to the money and it's infinite, the amount of things we can do with it. If that's not explained, you think you're buying life insurance. And if you want to read the book and go to an agent that doesn't understand that, you can't blame the concept, because the concept works if you understand how to use it, if the agent that is helping you understands how to use it. It really is that simple. You just need to arm yourself with the right people. And that person may not be me. I don't know. But I can tell you, there are infinite banking practitioners that are certified for a reason. And even some of those don't understand because they're not using it. They're not being teachable themselves or coachable, right? They don't have somebody that they're working with. They're not doing it enough. So when I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So I have worked with enough people to say, hey, you know what? I really want you to understand this. And if you don't understand it when you leave, it's not, or you don't agree with it when you leave the meeting, it's not for a lack of understanding. It's because you maybe just don't agree with it. And at that point, I will say, okay, I've explained everything to you as best I can. You either are not understanding it still or agreeing with it, right? Because sometimes people just don't want to. Because they will see that it is life insurance and say, oh my gosh, I don't want anything to do with it, even though they don't know anything about it because they have the arrival syndrome. So don't think that everything is going to happen overnight. Don't think that you can't do this because you're not insurable. And don't think that it doesn't work because you have thought, you've read the book and say, well, there's no way this could work. Or one person said, well, I looked into this and this doesn't work. I have nearly 1,000 clients. To say this doesn't work is crazy because it's working for all of them. And the person that I just got off the call with before I recorded this, they have 529 plans. They have lost $130,000 in those plans, and their kids are in college right now. Who's coming up with that money for college? Them, out of pocket now, right? That wasn't in the plan. So we have to look at the guarantees. We have to look at the full picture. So if you are somebody that's come across these same issues or same thoughts, hopefully that helped answer some of those questions. I mean, I really am an open book. If you're willing to be respectful, if you're willing to ask the questions, I'm willing to answer them. But when you're disrespectful and you make snide comments to me, yeah, all rationale leaves my head. You guys, I am 100% German, remember? I mean, it's absolutely crazy the amount of stuff that I see on social media. And either it's the posts that I'm putting on or it's the ads that I have. It's actually disheartening to see how ignorant people choose to be and not do their due diligence. All I ask is that you do your due diligence. And if you want to make me part of that so I can explain it, I'm happy to do that. Because I'm just out here showing you what the right product is and set up correctly. And explaining the concept, which is not the policy. The concept is not the policy. The policy is part of the concept. That's a big deal right there. All right, guys. This was kind of short and sweet today. Let me know if you need anything. MaryJo@withoutthebank.com. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next podcast. If you haven't gotten the book, go to withoutthebank.com. Grab Life Without the Bank. Grab Becoming Your Own Banker. You get them as a bundle. Better price. Grab those. and start educating yourself. Don't let keyboard warriors educate you and people that are not certified and don't know the concept. That's just asking for failure. And then you're going to blame the concept, and you can't do that. All right. Have a good day, y'all.